Hello, and thank you for coming back to draw with me again. Today it's great to have you back along. Today we're going to have a go at drawing a papaya on a leaf, and for today's drawing I'm going to be using some felt tip pens. So I've got some different shades of orange, red, yellow, some greens and a black. And for this drawing I'm going to be putting a little bit of water on top of my pen at the end, so if you've got a little paintbrush, pot of water and a tissue if you want to follow along with me. But you could do this in colour pencil or in crayons or even in watercolour paints, anything you fancy really. So we're going to be thinking today about the colours and the patterns of this image, and we're not going to be really focusing at all on trying to make it look like the photograph. So I really want you to focus on enjoying trying to create these nice colour contrasts, maybe some of these lines and these shapes, and not worry at all about how it's going to look at the end. So draw alongside me, but work at your own pace if you want to. Fast forward if you're ahead of me, or hit the pause button if you need to, and just enjoy drawing alongside me. So go and grab the materials you'd like to use today and a beverage of choice, and I'll see you in a moment. So I'm working with my yellow pen to start with today, and if you're working in pencil, a yellow pencil will be fine as well. And I'm just drawing a frame out to start with. And what I liked about this image was the colours and also the patterns that are in this image. So rather than particularly trying to draw out a papaya and a leaf, what I'd like to try and do is just emulate that lovely shape, colour and pattern that are in there. So I'm going to put these within my frame, but I'm not going to worry too much about getting them exactly in the right spots. So first of all, I'm going to draw out this lovely oval shape here. And just enjoy drawing out these really simple shapes. And there's a couple of things that can help you in drawing out your shapes. You can look at the spaces and the shapes that are around the different slices and use them to help you a little bit as well. And that's also really nice for taking your focus away from thinking about what you're trying to draw, and just looking at really nice shapes that are around the fruit slices. So I didn't finish off this line because I wasn't sure exactly where I might go with it, but I'll pop it in now because I can see how my fruit might fit into the shape of the frame now. But of course I could just draw a different frame and really not be too worried about that. So I'll draw the inside now. Where the seeds would be, or will be, I should say. And then I'm going to mark in this lovely line that goes around the middle. So I'm going to put my first line here, and then just take my pencil over and see what pen I should say over and see where that line will appear. So I'm going to put a yellow into this middle part, although it is a lighter orange. The yellow will work well because I'm going to add water onto it, and then also the seeds will go on at the very end. So there's no particular need to colour this carefully because I know I'm going to put water over the top of mine. If you're working in a different media, if you're painting, working in coloured pencil or crayon, you might have a different way that you want to do this. And then I'm going to take my orange pen and add the colour into the flesh of the papaya. And again, I'm doing this quite messily because I know that I'm going to add some water over the top of mine, although it could look quite nice as a nice scribbly drawing in pen as well. And if you had a more chunky marker pen, this would be good for this drawing if you're going to put water over the top. I'm just looking for some places where there's a little bit more of a red tint to the flesh, and I'm just going to put a little bit of red in there as well. And maybe some spots where I want to put a bit more yellow. Okay, so I'm going to grab my green pens now and I'm going to put in the leaf shapes. So I've got two shades of green here, a lighter one and a darker one, although they're not massively different. So hopefully you've got pens that may be a little bit more of a contrast in the shades of the green. So just be careful that you think about how you might mix your colours or not mix your colours together, because red and green will make brown. So this is definitely where a more chunky felt tip pen would have been better. So I'm not worried too much about putting my lines in yet, although I am working in the angle of the lines that I'm going to be putting in. So this side is actually quite a lot darker. And what I might do is use a little bit of black at the very end just to put in a bit of shadow. So we'll see how that looks once we put some water on. We'll come back and put more lines onto it. So as before, just a normal paintbrush, just dampen it down rather than have it soaked with water, and then you'll get the hang of how much water you need for your specific pens. And I'm just going to mix some of those lines together. So one thing to be thoughtful of is where you might have a lighter colour, for example the yellow, how you might want to try and drag the yellow on top of the orange rather than the other way around, so that you don't cover up your yellow tone too much and lose that part if you want to keep it a little bit more yellow. So it's just something to be mindful of, but it really doesn't matter how you put your colour on, so you can be like a little bit haphazard, keep it quite loose. And if you're painting, then you can decide if you want to keep it quite soft and watery or quite detailed. And if you're using crayons or colour pencils, then you can decide how much you want to blend your colours together. So I don't mind if I have a little bit of orange dragged into some of the yellow. When I'm doing the inside part. So I just give my brush a little clean before I go into doing the greens. And I'm just being careful about when I'm very close to the edge, because I don't want to have a brown by mixing it with the red. But apart from that, it can be really quite loose. And I really like the bright colours of the pens. And this is going to be a lot brighter than the image actually, because my pens are quite vibrant in their greens, but I might add a little bit of black, as I said, just to put a bit of tone into some areas. So I'm going to let this dry once I've put this bit of water on, and I'm going to add some more lines into it. But you could leave it as quite a nice watery patterned piece. Fab, so I'll let that dry for a moment. And now I'll put a little bit more of the lines that are on there. This is still quite wet, so just be careful if you're doing it this way. You could let it dry a little more. So now's the time just to sort of lose yourself in the patterns and the lines that you're putting in. And you can work as many different greens and yellows on top of your lines as you like. I'm just going to take my lighter green and put a few more lines in. And then last thing I'm going to do is take my black pen and be very careful. It's just checking it's dry, which it is, and just putting in just a few little light marks like this. It's up to you how you do this part. You can have more or less if you want to. And I'm going to make a little palette of black at the top here to use as well if I need it. So just damp brush, and the black will move around a lot more easily than some of the other colours. So I'm just using the tip of my brush just to move the black around, soften it a little. And I could always go back and put a little bit more orange in as well, if I wanted to have a little bit more of those little orange lines of the seeds. Just soften those a little. And then I'm just going to use my palette of black here just to put a little bit of tone in. And it's just the tiniest amount, just to give a little bit of a shadow. Onto the leaf, but quite subtle. So you could carry on building up depth into your image with a bit more shadow in the spots that you want to use it, or you can leave it quite colourful. So working with the pens in this way is actually really very enjoyable and very relaxing, just to keep adding little bits and pieces to them. You can control it by just blending it in with your water if you don't like what you've added. So you could go back and add more green, go back and add more orange or yellow, whatever you fancy. I'll put a few more green lines in here, just where they've softened a little. And I think I'll leave mine there. So I hope you enjoyed that drawing today, and I'd love to see all of your drawings as always. So you can send your drawing to me on Facebook, on Instagram or on Twitter at the City Workshop. All the details are below. And I hope you come back and do another drawing with me again. So I'll see you tomorrow.